On Monday night, the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving led Brooklyn Nets were eliminated in 4 games in a shocking sweep by the Boston Celtics on the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this is the second straight year in the KD and Kyrie era where the Nets have not made the conference finals, the third year of them being together on Brooklyn. And not much major success has come, especially with the ambitions they had, when they signed with the Nets, of winning championships, going to the finals. And really none of that has happened so far in these 3 years of them being in Brooklyn. And with that type of talent, you got to be doing something wrong. Something's got to change. You can't be wasting those two type of players, especially Kevin Durant. So after a massively disappointing season and really just a turbulent, crazy season for the Brooklyn Nets, they're a huge question in the NBA this offseason. They're going to have to make changes. And where do they go from here? They have a core of older players, some younger fringe players as well that have helped them out, such as Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, and Day'Ron Sharpe and Kessler Edwards. But they also have older role players who are out of their prime, such as Blake Griffin, Goran Dragic, LaMarcus Aldridge, and more. They're coached by Steve Nash, who had no prior coaching experience to taking the Brooklyn Nets job. And at times we've really seen that, where he's failed to make adjustments or maybe hasn't made the right calls in certain situations in his tenure as Nets coach. And I think this offseason they have to look into possibly replacing him with a more experienced coach. And also have to look into what really is going on with Kyrie Irving, because he's a player you cannot trust for 82 games. He is not a player you could trust for 82 games. He has not proved himself to be that in really around 5 years. A team hasn't gone far with him as the best player or the primary option. And I do think he's a Robin. He's a great Robin. But he's not consistent either. He's so talented, and we all know this. But how are they going to build around Kevin Durant this offseason? And Kyrie Irving and Steve Nash, the two pillars put besides Kevin Durant. I think if you're Sean Marks, the GM of Brooklyn, you have to question both of them and what their future in Brooklyn is. Now, when they signed here, it seemed like they were building around Kyrie and KD, but Kyrie is just so hard to build around. And you have to wonder, how long is the Nets' patience? Or really how long can any organization's patience be with a player like Kyrie Irving? So what will the Nets do this offseason? Today we're going to be jumping into, a wide array of possibilities, options, and questions. And really, what is next for the Brooklyn Nets after such a disappointing, turbulent season for them? Where do they even go from here? And what's in store for the Nets and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who have really had a disappointing 3 years here so far? To be fair for KD, it's really been 2 years, but still. Last year got eliminated in 6 by the Bucks, and part of that was, the injury to Kyrie and James Harden. A lot of questions for this team, and in this video, we're going to be going over them. First off, the first and biggest question this offseason for the Brooklyn Nets is the Kyrie Irving decision. We all know how good he can be, but in 3 seasons so far with the Nets, he has played barely 100 games. His availability has been a clear concern throughout really his whole career, and that has not changed at all in his time with the Nets in these 3 seasons. And even when he was consistently available, he played every game in the Boston series, he disappeared at times on the offensive and especially defensive end. And even when he was playing it, he's such a great talent, but at times it's maybe he could have been more sync with his teammates, known when to find them better at times. And we saw flashes of that, but we also see clear times where it's he needs to be a better team defender. He needs to not hold the ball for 18 seconds of the shot clock and then pass it up. And as for the Nets' options, he's up for a max this summer if he declines his player option, he's a free agent. You can't just let him go. Part of the reason is he's so talented, and also to keep Kevin Durant happy, which got to be priority one right now for the Brooklyn Nets. And in recent quotes, Kyrie has said he wants to run the team with Sean Marks. He thinks him and KD should run the team with Sean Marks and Steve Nash. And if I'm Sean Marks, I'm thinking, slow down, Kyrie. I don't know if you've really earned that right here. And I don't know if I really want to follow what Kyrie's vision is for the team. So, this offseason, the Nets have got to make a decision. Do you take that risk and just say, we got to do it, we have no other option? Offer Kyrie that 5-year max, which I would not feel good at all about giving to him. Or, I mean, do you possibly explore a trade, and how does KD feel about that? More major shuffling of the roster. That would be Kyrie and James Harden, two superstars traded away from Kevin Durant's team within a year. And really, it's a tough spot for the Nets with such a special talent on their team. How do you manage that when he just can't be available consistently at all? The next question is the balance of youth and vets on this team. You have vets such as Goran Dragic, LaMarcus Aldridge, Patty Mills, Blake Griffin, who really, those guys, I mean, besides Patty Mills, did not consistently help the team this year. You also have a guy like Andre Drummond. Do you re-sign Andre Drummond, or do you commit to a younger guy like Nick Claxton, who gave some good minutes on the defensive end, but really cost the Nets in Game 4 with all those free throws missed? Or do you go out for a more dominating type of center? What do they do at the center position? I know people don't think centers matter as much, and they don't in the NBA, as it's a lot less, there's a lot less like defined positions in the league, but they need a consistent big. That's something they've really lacked. It looked like they had it in LaMarcus Aldridge for a little bit, but obviously he had that heart concern. He's back now. He was decent this year, but he's pretty old. Or do they turn to a guy like Day'Ron Sharpe? That's another big question for the Nets, and gonna be interesting. But as we were talking about, the balance between vets and young guys on this team is really a question. Another young guy is Cam Thomas, who looked really good but did not play a single minute in that playoff series. How much are they committed to those guys for the future? Those rookies they brought in last year. They brought in 3 promising rookies in Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Kessler Edwards. Do you try to play those guys, or maybe do you try to package them for like a pretty good role player to put alongside KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons, which is the third and final point in this video? You know, Ben Simmons, the last year for him has just been so weird. He's played 1 game, and that was when they were eliminated. Or the last game he played was when the Sixers were very surprisingly eliminated in that Game 7 versus Atlanta. Obviously, that play where he turned down that layup to pass to Matisse Thybulle is ingrained in the minds of many NBA fans. And he didn't play this year for the Nets. It was first back injuries, and then there was mental health concerns. So, I mean, all the Nets can really do is be patient, as I don't really know what his value really is right now in terms of a trade. I mean, I wouldn't think he's untouchable, but I don't think they're going to trade him. So, really, you just gotta hope for the best when it comes to Ben Simmons. You just gotta hope he gets his mental right. He is able to, just move on, be confident, and play a complementary role. He really doesn't need to do too much next to KD and Kyrie, which is why the fit in Brooklyn is so good with 2 of the most offensively talented players of our generation. Simmons he can just stick the team's best player and be a facilitator at times and be really good in transition. He doesn't need to do anything really on the scoring end. But really they just need him to play. And need him to play especially on the defensive level, how he was in that regular season, before the playoffs, and really just overall. In this video, I wanted to talk about the Brooklyn Nets and what's going to be next for them moving forward. Obviously, we don't know that, but the decisions they have to make and just a look into what is going to determine if they have a successful offseason or not, and if they can turn themselves finally into a championship contender building around Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Thank you for watching.